Hello Nigerians, good day to you. And I must tell you straight away, we have a breaking news, and this one is very, very serious. Sit down properly because what I am about to lay before you touches the very heart of government trust, and by the time we finish, you will understand why. I want to ask you, please, stay with me till the end of this report. Do not jump halfway. This is not a story you rush through. It has layers, it has names, it has documents, and if you leave before the end, you will miss the parts that matter most. Here is what is happening. Right inside the office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, the OSGF, one of the most powerful offices in this country, the Anti-Corruption Agency, ICPC, has uncovered yet another fake government agency. Not the first, not the second, the fourth. And as a result, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has ordered an arrest and suspended 3 permanent secretaries with immediate effect. This is happening at a time when Nigerians are already asking hard questions about who is watching the gate at the seat of power. Before I go further, if this channel has been useful to you, do me this one favor. Hit that subscribe button, tap the like, and if you are seeing this live, drop a comment. Let me know you are with me. It helps us keep bringing you these stories. No filter, no sugarcoating. Now, back to the news, because this story is thick and we are going in. So let us start with what actually happened this Friday. The chairman of the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, Dr. Musa Adamu Aliyu, SAN, stood before State House correspondents in Abuja and he dropped a bombshell. He said his commission has uncovered another fictitious office operating right inside the OSGF complex under the name, and listen carefully, the National Brands Development and Made in Nigeria Special Project Office. Now, here is the fact, the documented fact. This office was not created by any law. It was not established by any executive order. It was, according to ICPC, simply allocated office space inside a federal government building without presidential approval. Think about that for a moment. An entire office sitting inside one of the most sensitive buildings in Nigeria's government, operating for who knows how long, and nobody at the top signed off on it. This is not a small administrative slip. This is a pattern, because as I will show you shortly, this is not the first time this year that ICPC has walked into a federal building and found an agency that should not exist, staffed by people who should not be there, doing business in the name of the federal government of Nigeria without any legal backing whatsoever. Aliyu made this disclosure directly to the press after briefing President Tinubu at the presidential villa. And what came next, Nigerians, was swift.
The man at the center of this new fake office has been named. His name, according to ICPC, is George Buchi Nwabueze. And this is where it gets even more interesting, because investigators say this same man has been operating under no fewer than 4 other variations of his name: George Nathan Nwabueze, Honorable George Buchi Nwabueze, Prince George Buchi Nwabueze. Now, why does that matter to you as an ordinary Nigerian watching this? Because a man who carries 5 different identities is not doing that for fun. In Nigerian public life, when somebody multiplies their names like that, it is almost always to slip past different checkpoints, different offices, different verification systems without anyone connecting the dots. That is the allegation ICPC is putting forward, and it is a serious one. Following this disclosure, President Tinubu did not waste time. He gave a direct order, the immediate arrest of Nwabueze in whichever of his named security agencies can find him. This is documented. This came straight from the villa, relayed by the ICPC chairman himself after his meeting with the president. So as we speak, Nigerians, there is a manhunt underway for a man accused of running a fictitious government office from inside one of Nigeria's most protected buildings. And that is only one half of what the president ordered that day.
The second part of the president's directive is in some ways even heavier, because it is not just about a lone fraudster hiding under fake names. It is about people inside government, senior civil servants who ICPC believes failed in their duty, or worse, may have helped this thing along. 3 permanent secretaries have been named and suspended with immediate effect. Their names are MS Danjuma, Nadungu Gagale, and Richard P. Filangwa. These are not junior officers. A permanent secretary in Nigeria's civil service is about as senior as it gets on the administrative side. The person who is supposed to be the institutional memory, the gatekeeper, the one who makes sure a stranger cannot simply walk in and set up an office under the government's name. Now, I must be fair here and separate what we know for certain from what remained an allegation. What we know for certain, officially documented, is that President Tinubu ordered their suspension and that this suspension is tied directly to how the fake office was able to operate inside the OSGF. What remains at this stage an allegation and not a proven fact is the exact nature of their individual involvement, whether it was negligence, oversight failure, or something closer to deliberate compromise. That distinction matters, and any fair reporting on this must hold that line until investigations conclude. But one thing is clear, heads are already rolling, and the president is sending a message that this scandal will not be swept under any carpet.
Now, Nigerians, here is where I need you to lean in, because this new discovery does not stand alone. It is the fourth chapter in a scandal that has been unfolding since April this year. And to understand how serious this has become, we need to rewind to where it all started. A fake agency called the Presidential Foreign Intervention Promotion Council, or as some documents call it, the Presidential Foreign Investment Promotion Council. Different names, same fictitious body, PFIPC for short. This is the agency that first exposed the cracks in Nigeria's system. A man named Adeyemi Matthew paraded himself as the self-acclaimed Director General of PFIPC. According to ICPC's own findings, Adeyemi was never appointed by the federal government by any authority of government, and PFIPC itself was never created by any law, executive order, or any valid instrument of government whatsoever. Even more shocking, investigators say Adeyemi's appointment letter was completely forged, alongside a forged gazette and other fabricated legal instruments, all designed to give the impression that this was a real, legitimate arm of the Nigerian government. And it worked for a while. It worked well enough that this fake council reportedly interacted with serious federal institutions before anyone raised the alarm.
This, Nigerians, is the root from which everything else, including Friday's discovery, has grown. Stay with me, because the details of how deep this went will shock you.
Let me give you the documentary trail on PFIPC, because this is where the story becomes almost unbelievable. ICPC investigators found that the fake council did not build its own office from nothing. Instead, it allegedly cannibalized, that is the word the commission used, the former Presidential Economic Advisory Council. According to Chairman Aliyu, the lock on that former office was broken, and that is how Adeyemi allegedly gained access before turning it into the operational base for his fictitious agency. From that office, prosecutors allege Adeyemi engaged in widespread impersonation and false representation. Court filings say that between 2024 and 2025, operating from the Federal Secretariat Complex Phase 3, Abuja, he forged official presidential letter-headed papers dated as far back as March 8, 2024, to request land allocation and collaborative offices across all 36 states of this federation. 36 states, Nigerians. Not one office in Abuja quietly running scam papers, an operation reaching into every corner of this country. The federal government's case against him is now before the Federal High Court in Abuja under suit number FHC/ABJ/CR/562/2025, an 8-count charge bordering on forgery, fraud, and impersonation. The charge was filed on November 27, 2025 by Police Prosecutor Wisdom Madaki. And here is a detail that matters.
The petition that triggered the police investigation reportedly came from the office of the Chief of Staff to the President, alleging that forged appointment letters bearing fake signatures, official seals, reference numbers, and even Nigeria's coat of arms were being used to sell the illusion of legitimacy.
Now, let me walk you through what happened once this case reached the courtroom, because it tells you something about how these things drag on in Nigeria. Adeyemi was expected to appear before the Federal High Court for arraignment, but according to court records, he failed to show up, not once but repeatedly. His planned appearance was first postponed in June, when he was reported to be ill. Then, when the matter came up again on Tuesday, July 14, it was the 5th time the case had been listed, and once again, Adeyemi was absent, even though his lawyer, Genesis Francis, appeared on his behalf. At that point, the presiding judge, Justice Mohammed Umar, had had enough. Acting on an application by the prosecution under Section 394 of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, the court issued a bench warrant ordering security agencies to arrest Adeyemi and produce him before the court. He had, by that point, gone into hiding after the presidency publicly disowned PFIPC and declared its founding documents forged. But here is the update, and it is important. The manhunt did not last forever. The Nigerian police confirmed they finally arrested Adeniyi Adeyemi Matthew, announcing it on that same Tuesday, July 14, after weeks of searching. He was charged, alongside 2 others, with forgery, impersonation, and operating an unauthorized government agency. So, as this new fake office scandal breaks today, the man behind the original PFIPC story is already in the judicial system, facing trial. That is documented fact, not speculation.
Now, in fairness, and because good journalism means giving both sides room to speak, I must tell you what Adeyemi's legal team is saying, because it complicates the picture in a way many Nigerians have not fully considered. His lawyers have pushed back hard against the idea that this was a one-man operation. In a statement, his defense team argued that this is, in their words, a case of systemic institutional validation, not individual impersonation. Their argument is this: multiple federal institutions, they claim, officially recognized and interacted with PFIPC long before any investigation began. They named the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, the Accountant General, the Central Bank of Nigeria, the Head of Service, the Budget Office, the EFCC, the National Assembly, and even the heads of Nigeria's primary security architecture, asking how one private citizen could mislead every single arm of the state simultaneously without some form of high-level institutional cooperation. Now, I want you to sit with that question for a moment, because whatever you believe about Adeyemi's guilt or innocence, it is a fair question to ask. How does a fake agency operate for so long, interact with so many serious institutions, and only get caught this far down the line? That is not me defending anybody. That is me being honest with you about what is being argued in court, so you can weigh both sides.
ICPC, for its part, has maintained that Adeyemi exploited real weaknesses in verification and interagency coordination. Weaknesses, they say, that existed regardless of anyone's intent to help him.
Now, let us talk numbers, because this is where the scale of this scandal really hits home. Friday's discovery of the National Brands Development and Made in Nigeria Special Project Office is not the second fake agency uncovered this year. It is the 4th. Here is the documented timeline. ICPC submitted an interim report to President Tinubu on August 6, exactly 30 days after he first ordered a full probe into the PFIPC matter. In that same report, the Commission revealed it had uncovered 2 additional fictitious entities on top of PFIPC itself: the FCT Investment Promotion Agency and the Foreign Investment Promotion and Public-Private Partnership Office. 2 more names, 2 more fake government offices, both allegedly linked to the same web around Adeyemi Matthew. So, by the time Friday's briefing happened, ICPC was not describing an isolated fraud. It was describing a pattern, one man or one network allegedly replicating the same trick across multiple offices, multiple names, multiple buildings, all under the umbrella of Nigeria's federal government and largely undetected until this investigation began digging. Chairman Aliyu also confirmed something important for public confidence. ICPC's findings cleared the presidency directly of any involvement, stating clearly that the forged appointment letter used by Adeyemi did not originate from the office of the president. That is a fact worth holding on to amid all the noise, because it separates the institution of the presidency from the individuals now under scrutiny. Now, here is a part of this story that should genuinely worry every tax-paying Nigerian. Just 2 days before Friday's announcement, the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Oyedele, spoke publicly about the scandal, and he raised a warning that goes beyond fake offices and fake letterheads. Oyedele confirmed that President Tinubu has directed that the review of this scandal be extended to the Integrated Personnel and Payroll Information System, IPPIS, the system that determines who gets paid and how much across Nigeria's federal civil service. His reasoning was simple and chilling. If you have fake agencies operating inside government buildings, then it stands to reason you may also have fake employees somewhere on that payroll, drawing salaries every single month for work or offices that do not legally exist. Think about what that means for you and me. Every naira that leaves this country's treasury for a salary that should not exist is a naira that did not go to a hospital, a school, or road, or a subsidy that Nigerians are waiting on. This is not abstract corruption talk. This is your money, my money, disappearing quietly into offices that were never supposed to be there in the first place. Oyedele's disclosure came alongside another major development, and I want to bring you that next, because it shows just how far up the chain this is now being taken. 2 days before this fourth fake agency was announced, the Federal Executive Council, that is, the President and his full cabinet of ministers sitting together, approved something significant. They approved a comprehensive forensic investigation into government processes and internal controls, specifically targeting how fictitious agencies like PFIPC were able to operate inside the federal government system in the first place. This tells you something important. This is no longer being treated as one rogue individual scheme. The government itself, at the highest level, is now acknowledging that there are structural gaps, weaknesses in how offices are allocated, how appointments are verified, how names are cross-checked against actual government records, and those gaps need to be forensically examined and closed. Chairman Ali of the ICPC echoed this when he explained the roots of the PFIPC scandal. He said the interim investigation found weaknesses in verification, weaknesses in interagency oversight, and weaknesses in ordinary government processes, and that those weaknesses were what a determined and resourceful individual was able to exploit, with what he called some level of negligence and possible connivance from people who should have caught it.
So here is where we stand factually. We have a criminal prosecution already underway for the original PFIPC scandal. We have 2 more fake agencies already flagged in an interim report. We have a 4th just uncovered with fresh suspensions and a fresh arrest order. And now we have a full forensic review of government systems ordered from the very top. This is not winding down. If anything, it is widening.
Now, let me bring this home, because it is easy to hear names like OSGF, IPPIS, PFIC, and permanent secretaries, and feel like this story is happening far away from your own life. It is not. Every fake agency that manages to secure office space, government letterheads, and access to federal processes is in effect a leak in the system. A leak that can be used to divert contracts, siphon budget allocations, or simply create the appearance of legitimacy for activities that benefit a handful of individuals at the expense of the Nigerian public. If Minister Oyedele's fear about fake employees on the IPPIS payroll turns out to be even partially true, then ordinary Nigerians have effectively been paying salaries month after month for offices and staff that should never have existed. And there is a trust cost to Nigerians.
Every time a story like this breaks, it chips away at public confidence. Confidence that when government issues a letter, a gazette, or an appointment, it means something real. Confidence that the people managing our public institutions are properly vetted. That trust, once broken repeatedly, is hard to rebuild, no matter how many arrests follow afterward. This is why the response to this scandal matters just as much as the scandal itself. Arrests and suspensions are a start, but Nigerians will be watching to see whether the forensic investigation Oyedele mentioned actually produces results, or whether it becomes another report that gathers dust in a government drawer. Before I give you my own take on all of this, let me do what responsible journalism demands. Let me lay out clearly, one more time, what is fact and what remains allegation. Because in a story this explosive, the two can easily get mixed up. Here is what we know for certain, officially documented. ICPC uncovered a fictitious office called the National Brands Development and Made in Nigeria Special Project Office, operating inside the OSGF without presidential approval. President Tinubu ordered the immediate arrest of George Buchi Nwabueze and the suspension of 3 named permanent secretaries. This is the 4th fake agency linked to this broader scandal since April. Adeyemi Matthew is already facing an 8-count criminal charge in a federal high court in Abuja and was arrested in July after evading multiple court appearances. The Federal Executive Council has approved a forensic investigation into government systems, and the Finance Minister has confirmed a review of IPPIS is now underway. Here is what remains allegation, not yet proven in any court: the precise individual culpability of the 3 suspended permanent secretaries, whether their failure was negligence or something more deliberate. The full extent of Nwabueze's alleged activities under his various names, and Adeyemi's defense claim that multiple federal institutions knowingly validated PFIPC, which, if true, would spread responsibility for this scandal far beyond one man. Both of these categories matter.
Do not let anyone, including me, blur them for you. So, where do I stand on this, honestly? I believe the swift action, the suspensions, the arrest order, and the forensic probe is the right instinct. But swift action must not become the end of the story. What Nigerians deserve now is full due process, a transparent trial for those accused, a genuine administrative review that names exactly who failed in their duty and why, and public disclosure of what the IPPIS review finds, whether it is comforting or damning. Here is what I will be watching, and what you should watch too. Will George Buchi Nwabueze actually be arrested and arraigned, or will this become another manhunt that drags on for months like we saw with Adeyemi? Will the 3 suspended permanent secretaries face a genuine disciplinary process or a quiet reinstatement once the news cycle moves on? Will the forensic investigation into government systems ever be made public, or will it remain a villa-only conversation? And perhaps most importantly, will the IPPIS review confirm or deny Minister Oyedele's fear of fake employees drawing real salaries from Nigeria's treasury? These are the questions that will tell us whether this moment becomes real reform or just another headline that fades by next month. If this report helped you understand what is really going on, share it with somebody who needs to see it. Drop your thoughts in the comment section. I read them. And if you have not subscribed yet, now is the time, because this story is far from over and we will be here to follow every twist. This has been a special breaking report from NAIJA News Online. Stay alert, stay informed, and I will see you in the next one.